ROCAM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here in my hometown, proudly a Rochesterian. You found the Sports Bar here, 95.7 FM, AM 950, streaming for free inside the Odyssey app. We're on YouTube and Twitch. You can hit us up on X at WGR Rochester, where your participation always welcome. Good afternoon, as the sun is out here in downtown Rochester. And for folks who aren't very familiar with the layout of our town, or maybe you just don't know where we are, well, I would hope you know where the ballpark is. There's a parking garage you see off in the distance over the left field wall, behind a parking lot. That is on the other side of State Street. And then we're on the other side of the parking garage. So I am looking out at said parking garage, corner of Commercial and Mill, where the Rochester Red Wings, just a few blocks away, looking to make it win number 10. They are leading Syracuse right now 7-4. They're in the bottom of the 6 as the Wings begin this push for a playoff berth. This is the format the International League has given us. That is the split season. And to consider that in this first half of the season, the Wings have only one more road trip. That's it. Like, wait a second. They go to Lehigh Valley next week, and then they're home for 2 weeks. So this is setting up nicely if this team can take care of business. They did pick up a lefty reliever from Colorado, which, okay, that was a guy who wasn't pitching well. But then again, it's in Colorado. But normally that's something you would do, I would think, if you're a major league team just trying to make a run and let's get another lefty reliever. Well, this guy was assigned to Rochester, and who knows? That you could just say, could you actually say maybe this is Washington? Hey, let's make sure that our AAA team is going to clinch a playoff berth here and load up here. I don't know. That could be it, or maybe they really like the guy. 585-866-4326 is our phone number. Gene Battaglia with you. Dan DeLorean, who is doubling up right now. He's also a receptionist. Can you imagine somebody coming up? Hey, yeah, look, oh, hi, how are you? Wait, you're the Dan DeLorean. He is right now working in the front with his laptop, making sure all the audio is uploaded for you in bite-sized form. If you missed it, any part of the show, 1 to 3, you can go back and listen anytime wherever you get your fine audio. Tim Schneider is here as well, the executive decision made by myself, but I know you're in agreement. Studio door is open today.
Glad
because it is now 79 degrees, which, look, this is not like what we were dealing with previous winters here, where the actual heat wasn't blowing the way it should, and they were dipping below the city limit there in terms of what an office building should be. They've yet to fix this, so first world problems here that we're working without AC. Oh, well, I know. You shed a little tear for us, I suppose. But earlier today, you missed this. I'm working upstairs on the second floor. And when I tell you, I'm not used to commotion in an office building, it's always unusual. Like, who are these people? The old Seinfeld bed. Who are these people? There's a group of 20 people, and they're acting like they own the place. They're making noise. They're doing all this. And their morning shows are still on the air. Like, what is going on? Apparently, they're going to be filming some movie here. They chose our site. So our building is old. I mean, what is this? 1890s this was built. It's really cool how it's been repurposed. Right, again, in the High Falls district. And usually this is the time of year also as we're heading into the summer where, hey, if you need a senior picture, oh my gosh, there isn't an afternoon where there isn't somebody taking senior pictures, or sometimes even you get a bridal party coming down here, whatever it is. It is picturesque. There are pockets of beauty, certainly, in Rochester, and High Falls is certainly one of them. And apparently, I don't even know anything about the movie. Here's what I know, Tim. I just know that Scott Spizzano brought this, and he said yes, and he brought it to the general manager and said yes, and nobody else knew that this was going on. So just a bunch of people going around for a site visit today, like what they're going to do. And when is this going to happen? What is this film? I have no idea. I don't. But by the site visit, you're like, all right, this isn't some college student just putting something together here. It seemed like a little bit much. So that was the excitement today in the studio. Great show we've got lined up today. In hour number 2, we love him, PJ Glasser, your host. Where you hear him on the Westwood One Sports Network. I heard him Monday night. He was doing BetMGM tonight, talking about from an Orioles perspective as they beat the Rays on Memorial Day, where the Rays just kind of gifted him that win. PJ will be joining us here as we will preview the NBA Finals. I know it's not set. We know one half of it, but now that we know the New York half of it, this is going to be the most interesting finals since the LeBron against the Warriors. I mean, honestly, those 4 years, usually when you get a rematch and another one, I don't think any of us were complaining year 4. Honestly, like that always felt like good basketball. Maybe by year 4, we're like, okay, we're ready for something new. But consider that from a basketball standpoint last year, Halliburton, SGA, the basketball was good. But we, the public, were like, until we got to Game 7, like, oh, I guess I should kind of tune in. And the meme treatment was, why is the NBA logo superimposed on the hardwood floor? There were things that you wouldn't want. The focus should have been on 2 good teams. But the reality was 2 small market teams, 1 small market team in Oklahoma City that really doesn't have, like, long-time generational roots. They just don't. Unlike a team like, say, I don't know, what team am I thinking of? The Knicks. Yeah, they would qualify. That series last year averaged a little over 10 million, which you would think, that's not bad. No, it's not good. It's not good. The years where you had LeBron against the Warriors, the average audience was over 15 mil. And not every one of those series went to 7. We remember the one that, LeBron with the, swatting, making the block at the end. The Cavs come back from 3-1. That's the one we remember because, well, let's be honest. Like, we had our fill of the Warriors, and we want to see if LeBron could actually do this, where LeBron went from here. Interesting, kind of career arc for LeBron. Hey, I like this kid. Wait, he's a heel. He's winning as a heel. Okay, he went back home. Actually, I kind of like him. Now, and then he wins. And now I don't know what his next thing is going to be after the Lakers. But the point is about the TV ratings. The TV ratings haven't hit an average of 15 million since we went back to last decade. LeBron against the Warriors. Last year's final, 10.5 million, that wasn't anything to be proud of. That was the lowest number since you had Suns and Bucks. And you could say, well, come on, Gene, that Milwaukee, there's not an – well, that was also a time period where a lot of us still were kind of holed up. That was the first non-bubble final coming out of the pandemic, which was weird because it was in July and everything was still kind of out of sorts there in terms of a normal calendar. And because of that, I think, that got a little bit of an inflated number. And maybe we were tuning in because we still at that point like Antetokounmpo. Maybe you still do. I think I've kind of soured on the guy a little bit. But can we get a big number this round? And the answer is going to be yes. Minimum expectation. ABC has to be drooling here. This is a return on investment for Disney. They're getting the finals, by the way, if you didn't know, once again. So it'll be Mike Breen on the call. And some people are coming down. Oh, you're the voice of the Knicks. How dare they have that bias? But get the hell out of here with that. Like, did we say that for all those years for Joe Buck when the Cardinals were playing in the World Series against the Tigers or whoever because Buck did something and his old man was I don't recall. But, if you want to say that Mike Breen is biased, I say, well, that's your opinion, and your opinion is wrong on that. But Knicks against whoever should be entertaining. Now OKC is 1 win away from doing this. Spurs made a little bit of a run to make it interesting last night, but it certainly wasn't enough. And now that goes back to San Antonio. Tomorrow night, Game 6, with OKC a chance to close it out on the road. I would expect this goes to 7. So I'm not calling the Spurs dead here yet. And I think from a national standpoint, I would think that Wembanyama against the Knicks would be the more interesting. You may disagree with me on that, but Oklahoma City just seems, okay, we saw this. It's good basketball. What did good basketball get you in terms of a number last year? As I just reviewed, your lowest number here of since the pandemic. That's not good. So can you get a star? And SGA is a great player. He's not a star. Wembanyama is the one, appointment television. Like, that's the guy. I made the joke yesterday. I'm like 99.99% sure that this is a joke, okay? But, again, our country, the world, fascinated by aliens. Who are these aliens that live amongst us? And we'll have, the X-Files in real life at some point. And I would just point to, all right, if there was ever going to be an alien that said, you know what? I would think that playing sports might be fun here in the United States. Let me be a sports athlete. That would be Victor Wembanyama. Hey, let me grow up in France, and then I'll come over and I'll dominate. Because what he's doing is just something we've never seen before. So if you'd like to talk next, 585-866-4326 is our number. We'll talk that with PJ Glasser coming up in hour number 2. Bottom of this hour, Buffalo Bills talk. Sal Capaccio, WGR Buffalo Bills reporter, joining us. By the way, Sal is going to be the MC coming up on June 7th at ESL Ballpark for the Greg Rousseau charity softball game. We had Greg on last week, and if you missed that, it's wherever you get your fine audio, talking about the Bills defense. And I think that's going to be kind of the theme of our conversation with Sal, because made available to the media yesterday was new Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard. And Jim Leonhard offering his opinions on IGB, as we're just coming to kind of, Igbinosin is maybe a little bit of a mouthful for some people, including myself, so we'll just shorten it up. IGB, him, but Landon Jackson we'll talk about. Kind of the forgotten guy, right? 3rd-round pick from last year, Arkansas. Couldn't get on the field, does get on the field against Miami, gets hurt in the opening quarter, and that's pretty much it for the rookie season for Landon Jackson. Now he's bulked up. Is this kind of the better move? Meaning, okay, was he miscast? Or is this kind of the last chance? Like, you're not going to make it on this team as an edge rusher. Let's try this. And the analogy here I would give, it actually relates to a former Amherst, because there was a former Amherst who was a high draft pick who did very well here, but then going up to Buffalo, couldn't really do much on the 4th line. And this kind of went on for his rookie season in year 2. And everybody's like, no, this guy's not it. And part of the problem was there was weighted expectation because, well, he came back in a big trade for one of your top stars. In fact, your team captain, Ryan O'Reilly. I'm talking about Tage Thompson. Tage Thompson, you go back to the beginning of his NHL career, wasn't good. But then, give him credit, Don Granado said, let's try this. Let's put you at center. Everything unlocks. Now, maybe that would have happened, and maybe you just need more time in the league. But Tage Thompson, again, another 40-goal season. I'm not suggesting that all of a sudden Landon Jackson's going to become this terrorizing defensive tackle, but sometimes players come in and they don't know what their role is. Like, if I had to say who is the Buffalo Bill in recent years, by recent years, like, give me more than a decade here on this, that made a name for himself at a different position. Well, you could go back and you say George Wilson. George Wilson was a wide receiver who, all right, maybe he'll be the 6th or 7th. Let me play safety and be a backup. And all of a sudden he became a hard-hitting safety. And it worked. Who else might fit that? I'll give you another guy where there were injuries. Maybe you're down to your 4th string. I couldn't even name the 3 guys ahead. I remember the training camp, and then the head coach at the time, Rex Ryan's like, well, next guy up is Lorenzo Alexander. Lorenzo Alexander, former offensive lineman, outside linebacker. He wasn't an offensive lineman with the Buffalo Bills, but when he came into the league, that's what he was. And he was just brought in as a guy. And all of a sudden he has 10 sacks, and I think that Lorenzo Alexander, one of my favorite players from the drought era. So I don't know what the future holds for Landon Jackson, but I'm curious because you see what's ahead at the edge rusher position of Landon Jackson. I'm like, that's in this new format. I'm like, I don't know. To me, it looks more out of necessity right now. Hey, if you want a job on this team, this is where we're going to need you. Let's try this out. We'll get the thoughts of Sal here coming up. And the thing to note, too, is, and I'm learning this, too. I'm not going to say that's why we have people like Sal on. Like we're used to, hey, here's your defensive tackle. Here are your defensive ends. And here's your middle linebacker and your two outside linebackers. Maybe you take one of the outside linebackers and you throw in a nickel corner. This defense is not going to necessarily have those sort of labels, right? What is Michael Hoyt? What is Dorian Williams? Like who are Bradley Chubb? Greg Rousseau, we mentioned. Like, will he actually be kind of standing up rather than the hand in the ground? So there's a lot of things with this defense that we're going to be learning about. And if the defense can just take a couple steps forward this year, and instead of allowing 33 points, allow 23? Of course, not turning the ball over 4 times would help. Talking about that Denver loss. Sal Capaccio will join us here. Bottom of this hour. You're welcome to join us at 585-866-4326 here from the Muggy Studios here of Odyssey Rochester. Gene Battaglia with you. Yay! Vegas is going to the final. Yeah, I'll give your kid a pass if they were just not really happy. Let me choose a team. I'm at an impressionable age, and if they did that and they're a Vegas Golden Knight fan, good for them. The question I would put here, and anybody that wants to write in at WGR Rochester, anybody that wants to call us at 585-866-4326, are the Vegas Golden Knights the most successful expansion franchise ever? Regardless if they win or not here in the final, the answer is yes. So this is, I can't believe it. I had to look it up. This is year number 9 for the Golden Knights.
9 times.
3 cup finals over 9 seasons.
9 times.
1 being a championship. So if they get 2 Stanley Cup championships over in their first decade, I think the argument's over. First season they show up, 13 wins, year 1, and they cracked the code on that. And maybe we could just be angry at the NHL for allowing Vegas just to do what they did, but you know what? They figured it out, and they got to the final. They lost to Washington a few years ago. They beat Florida in a final that quite honestly I don't remember much. I remember thinking, oh, there's Jack Eichel. I'm not going to invest any of my time in this, right? And that might be the case this year, and you may feel the same way. Hey, I've got the NBA Finals on. Hey, the Yankees are entertaining. Hey, the World Cup is coming up. Oh, it's Jack Eichel against Carolina, another team I really don't like. Yeah, maybe it will have it on as background noise, but it's the Cup final to me, based on team, not appointment television. That makes me a bad sports talk host too, so be it. But the point is about Vegas. Are they the most successful expansion franchise ever? And if you're just looking at other sports, now the Florida, now called Miami Marlins, year 4 they won a World Series. Okay, that's good, and they won again in 2003. But in between, they blew it up. Did nothing today. You'd be stretching to argue that. Same thing with Arizona. Arizona spent a ton of money, and credit them. They bought themselves a Kurt Schilling and paired him with Randy Johnson and bought themselves a Mark Grace. Luis and Gonzalez showed up, and they beat the Yankees in 7 games. And that was year 3 for the Diamondbacks. And what have they done since? Well, they made it a World Series later on, but in the NFL, it's a little more difficult. But I would point to 1 year, and that would be the expansion in 1996, where the Panthers and Jags really weren't good. But then they made their respective championship games the next year, where if you lived that, I think we're all losing our minds. Like, no, we can't. No. We can't have a Carolina Jacksonville Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Carolina goes to Green Bay and they get pounded. And Jacksonville is a little more competitive, but Drew Bledsoe and Bill Parcells took care of business. Green Bay over New England. That was that Super Bowl. And then the Panthers and Jags, just football is, hey, it's hard to stay up. So, no. Where they both burned hot there year number 2. After that, NBA, I was having difficulty coming up with anything. Now, you could say, well, I'm talking about right out of the gate. Because you could say, well, look at the Miami Heat with LeBron. Okay, well, the Heat were formed in the 80s. Okay, so I'm not counting that decades later. I'm talking about expansion franchise where normally, hey, we're kind of bad, and then maybe someday we'll be competitive. Vegas didn't even have to be bad. It's not fair. It's not fair. So am I rooting for Vegas? The answer is no. I'm not. And for anybody that's like, well, Devin Levi, you don't think a team like Colorado with Carter Hart, and by the way, former Amherst Scott Wedgwood, we celebrate anything connection to Rochester, and there was a former Amherst goalie starting the Western Conference Final, and none of us were even talking about it. Because it was Scott Wedgwood. We go, yeah, that guy. You remember one time Danger was like, hey, he gets promoted from Utica. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's gross. The Sabres just lost to Scott Wedgwood. That was, 6 years ago? And the guy is still around. Credit him for being a grinder. But goaltending does sort of kind of matter. And if you're looking for a team that has a worse goaltending situation than the Buffalo Sabres, may I introduce you to the Colorado Avalanche, where last night wasn't bad, but you shouldn't be getting swept by a team that had 39 regulation wins. That's it. Like the Islanders had more. The Devils had more. Vegas would have been at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Sal Capaccio coming up. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills. Tim Schneider is here. Dan DeLorean is here. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
Sports Update.
Bills working again out in the sun today. Good day for OTAs. Ed Oliver speaking on Tuesday on a whole new world in defense.
Everything I know and come to know, you just throw all that out. But I guess like a breakup, kind of. I don't know. Everything you did in the last relationship, throw all that away. This a whole nother person, whole nother, so you got to relearn. And it's fun, it's different. Change is always hard, but sometimes change is good.
Sal Capaccio, WGR Buffalo Bills reporter, to join us next here in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings look to make it 10 wins in a row. The early start today, they go to the 8th, and the Wings are up 8-4 on Syracuse. Rochester in first place in the International League. On the Major League scoreboard, Jays are trailing the Marlins 1-0 in their first. No score between the Guardians and Nationals also in the first. The Mets tonight hosting the Reds, the Yankees, and KC. Gene Battaglia, WGR Rochester.
Raising the bar. .95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
I hope we get this sort of weather June 7th as we welcome you back in to the Sports Bar. Now, with the Wings being out of town next week, things just lined up really nice here because normally the charity softball game for Micah Hyde is in Buffalo. They're working some issues out, the way I kind of understand that. And while they're doing that for 1 year, Greg Rousseau stepping in, and this event is going to be in Rochester coming up on June 7th. And joining us here on the phone, WGR Bills reporter Sal Capaccio. And Sal, you've been to these. You're serving as the MC. Great to have you coming back into town. How are you today, Sal?
It's great, yeah. I was on a vacation on a cruise ship with Thurman Thomas and Steve Tasker and Fred Jackson and Doug Flutie, and it was amazing. We celebrated Thurman's 60th birthday together. We had Sabres watch party because who the heck would have thought the Sabres would be in the playoffs when we booked this thing, right? I mean, that was kind of crazy. And I've been a part of what had been the Micah Hyde, charity softball event for the last several years as the on-field MC. And this year, very excited to head out to Rochester June 7th to be a part of the Greg Rousseau Foundation charity softball game.
Who's the best softball player? Which guy can you say if we're doing a home run derby? Not knowing who's going to be here on June 7th, that's the disclaimer. But from the years that you've been covering this here, Sal, which guy can crank it?
Well, Josh, number one. I mean, he's won it a couple times, the home run derby, I believe. He's won it a couple times. I know for sure he's won it at least once. He's been in the finals a couple times. He can pound the ball over top of the left field fence. And in Buffalo, he's done it pretty much onto the highway. I think even maybe dented a car in a parking lot or something. And then I think Spencer Brown beat him one year, actually, in that. Spencer, you can imagine. Some of these guys, it's so funny, right? As you know, Gene, it doesn't matter if you're a pro athlete in one sport, so oftentimes that can translate, oftentimes it can't. There's guys that go up to the plate and you think they're going to be these massive hitters and they really struggle to hit the ball in softball, slow pitch softball, which is kind of funny, right? And then there's other guys, they're like, oh yeah, that guy's just an athlete and can play no matter what sport you put in front of him.
Yeah, and I'm just curious to know, what is the level of competitiveness? Because, we're out here having a good time, raising money. This is something fun while we're getting ready for a Bills offseason. But these guys, in the end of the day, are competitors. So kind of describe, what is the actual event like? Are these guys kind of going full bore maybe, or are most of them just out there having some fun, Sal?
Oh, they're competitive. I mean, it's offense against defense. And if you know anything about, football and how even practice works, it's offense against defense. And these guys like to get after each other a little bit. Now, they're teammates. They're not hitting each other. There's not pads here. But they want to show each other up. The offense wants to win. The defense wants to win. So they're doing their best with that. However, that being said, they love to have fun with each other. They love to needle each other. If somebody makes a bad play, they'll be chirping each other, no doubt about it. And at the end of the day, it is for a great cause. It's really awesome, the money that gets raised, and it has, for the last, several years for Micah's Imagine for Youth Foundation, and this year it's the, I believe, Greg Rousseau Family Foundation. And then, they distribute a lot of other funds to other players' foundations along the way. So, yeah, it gets pretty cool when they're out there competing. There's no doubt about it. These guys are highly competitive athletes. They don't want to be embarrassed. They're going out there to try and put their best foot forward.
Sal Capaccio joining us here as I've got all these questions, and basically they're on the defense because yesterday you had a chance and others to talk to the new defensive coordinator, Jim Leonhard. Let's start there with Leonhard here, and we remember him as the player, right, flying around. What are your first impressions here of listening to Jim Leonhard? And Sal, having played in the league, is that a factor at all when it comes to relating to today's athlete, in your opinion? Your first impressions here of Jim Leonhard, the new defensive coordinator in Buffalo.
I think it matters to some guys, right? I mean, I would like to think that if you didn't play it down in the league, it shouldn't matter how good of a coach you are, how good of a teacher you are. Coaching and teaching is about communicating, and that's all it is. Like, it doesn't matter what your necessary experience is playing it, right? I think that if you're a good, effective communicator, you can be a good coach and you can be a good teacher. And I think that should be respected across, all platforms, right? I've coached sports my whole life and youth sports, and I coached football and I played football and I coached baseball and I played baseball. I've never played ice hockey, but if you asked me to coach it, I think I could learn it because I'm a communicator and I think I could do that, right? I think that's just an example of, if you put yourself in those situations and you can communicate with people, that's what makes it more effective. That said, though, Gene, I do think there are players, who look at someone a little different who put in the time in the league, right? They say, this guy played in the league. He's been there. He knows what he's talking about. So you get a little bit of a commanding of respect that's a little bit different than someone who didn't. So I think Jim Leonhard, in his case, it's not only that he played in the league. Let's think about this. Comes in the league in 2005? He's an undrafted free agent, and he makes the Bills. And he's the only undrafted free agent from that year who made the Bills. Then he goes on and has a long career in the NFL. And then on top of that, he goes into the college ranks, becomes not only a defensive coordinator pretty quickly, then an interim head coach of a major college program at Wisconsin. And then he goes to the NFL, and he's learned and been a part of successful defenses last year in Denver. I think this guy just walks into a room, and anybody who is familiar with his story at all, if you play for him, you're going to respect the things that he's going to say.
Sal, I'm curious to get your thoughts on labels here, meaning we kind of are accustomed to, all right, what does a 4-3 defense look like? You have 2 tackles and 2 ends and a middle linebacker and 2 guys on the outside, and maybe you take the guy on the outside and you're putting in a nickel defensive back, and that's how we would describe this. How would you describe these new roles here for an edge rusher, let's say like a Greg Rousseau, or maybe somebody on the inside we're reading about how, hey, there's Landon Jackson and he's bulking up and maybe he's going to be at a new position. This new defense, do we have to rethink of what we actually call these positions now?
Yes. It's a bit confusing for people, but I think that the most important thing is to try and be on the same language so we can all communicate effectively. As I just said a little while ago, which is really interesting, right? Which is, to me, the most important thing is, when I talk to listeners, when I talk to Bills fans, I want to make sure I communicate the same language that the Bills are speaking about a player. If Jim Leonhard calls a guy a defensive end, but I call him a defensive tackle, that doesn't make sense to anybody, right? So I want to make sure I'm communicating this. And ever since this whole defense, this new defense started with Jim Leonhard and trying to figure it out, we've been kind of caught in this space of really kind of twisting ourselves up. Well, is he an end? Is he a tackle? Is he an outside linebacker or a defensive end? So I specifically asked that to Jim Leonhard yesterday. Hey, can you tell us how you define some of these guys? How do you define Landon Jackson? So first, let's start with that. Let's use him as an example. Let's start with, where is Landon Jackson going to play? Landon Jackson is going to play basically, he can move around a little bit, of course, basically what they call the 4-eye technique. What is the 4-eye technique? Well, it means it's the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle. All right. A 4 technique is head up, any even technique. 2 is head up guard, 4 is head up tackle. He's head up on the tackle, but he's inside him, 4-eye, if that makes sense. The 5 technique would be the outside shoulder of the tackle. Well, he's going to play the inside shoulder of a tackle. His hand is going to be on the ground. Dean, if I'm telling you a guy's inside the tackle and his hand's on the ground,
yeah,
we don't think of him as a defensive end, right?
No,
you
we
don't
think of him as a tackle, right? Yeah.
He's a tackle, right?
Yeah.
Right. So to me, he's a defensive tackle. The difference is, though, in this defense, he might be the last guy on the line. So is he an end or is he a tackle? That's where the confusion comes in, right? So I want to get from Jim Leonhard, okay, This is true. So that's why you hear guys called defensive ends, even though their hand is down and they're inside the tackle, because they're the guy on the end, right? So I asked Jim Leonard to kind of explain, how do you determine it? And he said basically that. Well, look, he might be the last guy on the end on a play, but he's really a tackle. So they're just going to call them defensive linemen. They're going to call the group of Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, Fedarian Mathis, Dwayne Carter, Landon Jackson, defensive linemen. We should really kind of maybe get defensive tackle and defensive end out of our vernacular now in the Bills. Just call them defensive linemen. Okay. Now, if you want to call them one of those, I would say defensive tackle is more appropriate for those guys. Then the guys outside of them, and here's why it's confusing, because if you have Greg Rousseau and you have Bradley Chubb, let's say, on each side and the outside of the defense, they might be right up on the line of scrimmage. That is a traditional defensive end as we know it. They also could step back and be at the linebacker level because of this defense. Well, now that's a linebacker, but he's also coming off the edge and rushing the passer. So he's not really a defensive end, but he's not really a linebacker. What is he? He's an edge rusher. But honestly, what they're going to call them is outside linebackers. So really you have defensive linemen and you have linebackers, and that's kind of how you have to term this.
So I'm picturing Greg Rousseau, okay, and Bradley Chubb for that matter. Okay, those would we think the two that we would think would be at the edge here, and picturing them.
Yes.
And the analogy before you came on, Sal, was, and this is like the best case scenario, was, hey, there's a player for the Amherst that's going up to the Sabres, really didn't get unlocked, and he stays with the Sabres for a little while, and then Don Granato says, you know what, let's try you at center, and then all of a sudden it unlocks for Tage Thompson. I'm just curious. That is going to be one of the storylines. I cannot wait to see how Rousseau it relates to this new position. I don't know if did Chubb play a lot of this previously in the previous defenses. I know he comes from Denver, but that's removed from Jim Leonard. So like these two individuals at the outside, how new is this to them, and could that unlock something, Sal?
Well, let's start with Rousseau. It's more new at this level, but he did this at Miami. He did this in college. And what he really did in college a lot, though, was move inside and outside. One of the benefits of this defense, these guys we're talking about, especially Rousseau. Now, some guys won't have the same skill set to do it, but especially Rousseau, like he'll be at the linebacker level, but on the outside. But if you want, he can come down, he can move inside. You can use his length to play, in the interior kind of on a pass rush situation, standing up and putting his hands up, right? He can do that. He can go against a guard and use his length to push him back if you want. So Rousseau has been able to do that, but traditionally, no. But in the NFL, he has not done that. Chubb is different. Chubb has done this. You say, you go to Denver, and right, that's where he came from. But let's remember, when he got to Miami, who his defensive coordinator was, Vance Joseph. So he was in Denver, but he was in Miami with Vance Joseph, who then went to Denver. And that's where Jim Leonard comes from. So really, he has played in the Jim Leonard scheme under Vance Joseph when Vance Joseph was in Miami, if that makes sense. This is what he does. They targeted him specifically because of this, Gene. They targeted Bradley Chubb because he has experience playing this defense, and he's kind of the perfect fit for this role. And they're going to put him in that position to say, look, your job is, to rush the passer, but it's also to defend the run. One of the things about the Bills defense that I think is getting lost a little bit in all this, the Bills ranked 28th against the run last year. And when you and I see 28th against the run, what is the natural reaction to anybody? Oh, my God, their defensive line is terrible. They can't stop anything. Everybody's running on them up the middle. The Bills actually weren't as bad up the middle against the run as people think. You know where they were bad? On the edges against the run. This defense is actually providing what you're doing with this defense is, yes, you want to get after the quarterback. You're actually really good on the edges against the run in this defense. That's one of the things the Bills have to get better at, and that's what this defense will do. And then you funnel everything inside. So Bradley Chubb, TJ Parker, who they drafted, their first draft pick, second round, this is what he's going to do too. He is made for this position, to stop the run, to be an edge setter as a linebacker and funnel everything inside. And then, yes, of course, blitz. You're going to see a lot more blitzing, I think, from everywhere in this defense. But that's basically, yes, Bradley Chubb has a ton of experience in this sort of scheme, and that's why they brought him in.
Assuming he's healthy, where does Michael Hoyt fit in all this, Sal?
I think Hoyt is more – he is definitely – his natural position in this defense is what we just talked about, Chubb and Rousseau. but he will move around more than those guys. He is a true chess piece. When Jim Leonard was hired, he said, I think I do my best work, paraphrasing, with guys that don't fit into a box. They can move around. Well, that's Michael Hoyt. He doesn't fit into a box. You're not keeping them in one spot and saying, stand right there, go do your job. It's move here, move there. Your key and read is maybe to move out over here if they line up in this particular set and all that. And then you're going to use them as a blitzer. You're going to use them to, even drop into coverage against the run. So I would say his natural position in this defense is the edge/outside linebacker with where Bradley Chubb and Greg Rousseau will be playing, but you'll see him move inside even more. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe once in a while line up, let's say, next to Terrell Bernard as a true inside linebacker, so to speak.
We're talking to Sal Capaccio, just learning about this new Buffalo Bills defense, the terminology, and some of these new players, too. And you wrote up at WGR550.com as well as WGR Rochester.com. IGB, which I think that's just the easy way. We're just going to call him IGB, right?
Yeah.
David Igwinosin, the Davison. I'm sorry. See, I got that wrong. Like Davison.
That's okay. It's so everybody knows there's no D in there. It's Davison. So it's not Davidson. So it's Davison Igbinosin. Yeah. So you're right. Let's just call him IGB. That's what the team calls him. And that's what he's going to go by pretty much when the Bills talk about him.
Well, Sal, it seems, and this is the time of year where the sun is out. We're all optimistic. These guys look great. They're in a great physical condition. But when we look back at his career, and he's playing at one of the top programs, Ohio State, so that's a positive. But if you could talk about, okay, what did he do between this past season, the year before, how he kind of improved and cut down those penalties? That's not an easy thing to do when I'm sure opposing offensive coordinators were targeting the kid, knowing that, okay, maybe we'll get a first down here by targeting you.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, when most people see the penalties, your natural reaction is a negative, and of course. But the Bills have kind of looked at it as a positive because of how well he did the year after getting all those penalties. So I think he was called for 16 total over the last 2 years, but 12 came in 2024. Guy went from 12 to 4. I think those were the numbers, maybe 12 to 5. And Brandon Beane talked about this at the draft and said, that shows me this is a guy who had the willingness to work at making sure he was better at that. Like, this was an issue, and he fixed it. He corrected it, and he worked at it. And that speaks volumes to the coaching staff and the organization about the work ethic of the player, taking it seriously, and how much they want to get better. And that was a big reason why the Bills drafted him. And then what Jim Leonard said yesterday was he called him an ascending player. He went back and watched him through college and said, look, he thinks he's an ascending player. He's still he's going to be even better, like maybe as the years go on here, than he was in college and getting better. And, yeah, you hope that for everybody, but it's not necessarily true. Some guys kind of plateau. They're really good in college. They come in the NFL, and they're good players, but they never really get better. They believe he's going to get better. And the other thing about him, what Leonard said, is they also drafted him because he has traits that they don't already have in that room, his length specifically, his ability to play press man. Those are things that the Bills needed in the room. And he was quick to say, because someone asked him about it, this is not an indictment on Max Hairston. Like, they love Max Hairston, but he's different than Max Hairston. He gives them options, IGB. And, yes, Christian Benford's going to be your number one corner, I think, no doubt, right? Max Hairston's going to be the starter opposite him. I could envision a world, though, where maybe halfway through the year, not because of anything Max Hairston does wrong, but because maybe IGB is such a good fit for the defense, we're saying, man, is there any way to get him on the field more?
Yeah, look, these are all good problems to have, I suppose, and that's a position you always need depth. Sal Capaccio, Buffalo Bills reporter, WGR. Sal, the big question, are you a fan of the New York Knicks?
I am not. Although I am a fan of the vibe at MSG when I watch games, and I have friends who are Knicks fans. One is a season ticket holder, and he sends me pictures, and it looks awesome. But no, the only New York City sports team that I like is the Yankees. Every other New York sports team I really don't like and don't care to see them win.
Well, see, that was where I was going with this, because I know you're a Yankee fan, and I'm a Met fan, and you know Met fans too, right, Howard and others. But That's one team that unites New York, Sal. Like, and yes, there's a team that plays in Brooklyn, but nobody in New York really roots for Brooklyn. So I think it's just kind of great for the sport that we've got the Knicks in the final. So,
Well, I would say one of the reasons is, well, first of all, it's Schadenfreude for me, right? Which is, I mean, you grow up in Buffalo and your teams don't win. You get really jealous of the teams that have winning teams and the cities that have winning teams. And yes, I know I grew up a Yankees fan, but I'm an Italian kid from Buffalo, New York. I mean, that's what happens, right?
So time out. Let me make sure I got the SAT word in there correct. Schadenfreude is me wishing ill will on somebody else. Is that correct?
You're not wishing it. You're kind of happy about it.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
right, like you're not saying. I guess Schadenfreude. Yes, taking pleasure maybe in someone else's pain. Maybe that's what it is. Something like that. And listen, my wife is from Germany, and she will always remind me to say it correctly, which is Schadenfreude. So that's how you say it. Schadenfreude. I'm like, okay. So just so you know, that's what I've been told. But yeah, that's the word. And like, come on, don't we have some of that with Boston sports teams? Like, aren't you like, yeah, I love when they lose, right? It's the same thing. So I kind of grew up that way with New York City teams because, I mean, I'm a senior in high school when the Bills lose to the Giants, right? I'm a Yankee fan, yes. So, the Mets aren't going to be a team. Although I did like the 86 Mets growing up as a kid. I liked Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry. The other part of it, though, is just in basketball. I'm not like this huge NBA fan. When I was growing up in Buffalo, there was like very little NBA on TV, but they always had a couple of games of the week on, and the teams that were always on were the Lakers, the Celtics, the Sixers, and the Hawks pretty much. And I gravitated towards the Showtime Lakers, so I'm a Laker fan basically. I'm not like hardcore watching every single game, staying up to 10:30 over at Staples Center or wherever they play now. But you know what I mean? Like, but I am. But the Lakers are the team that I root for.
Yeah, you got to stay true to your teams, and you made our audience smarter today, Sal. Not just for talking about the Bills' defense, but for describing. Let me make sure, like we make your wife happy. Schadenfreude. Is that it?
You got it.
All right.
That's right. Schadenfreude.
Yeah, it's Schadenfreude. I'm pleased that the Patriots didn't show up in the Super Bowl. Ha, ha, ha.
See?
Yeah, there we go. There. Sal, extra point show, Bills OTAs continuing. What's coming up for you here that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so you're not really going to hear me on the Extra Point show very much these days. I'm covering the Bills out OTAs and doing a lot of that stuff. So you got Derek and Zach generally, but I'm on with them, and I'm on with Jeremy and Joe in the morning, and I'm on with the afternoon show, and we got right now Brad Ryder on during the afternoon as well. So whenever you're on you're bumping around Buffalo, listen to WGR, you can hear me. But also the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast. Always, that's something Matt and Bove and I do a couple times a week. We just recorded one earlier today, and we posted it with a lot of these same kind of questions and thoughts and a lot of new ones about the defense and Jim Leonard and IGB and the things we talked about. We go a little bit more in depth for about 45 minutes today on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo.
Sal, great stuff. Let's do this again soon. Appreciate the time today and you helping us out become better Bills fans, bud.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Sal Capaccio, joining us here on the show. I myself am a Knick fan. But I went to school down there, and I kind of lived a little bit of it. And then, Tim, this was, one of the coolest things I got to do while I was in school is I interned for the MSG network. And so this is my senior year, and they had a show. I think it's still on, Sports Night. Bob Page was the host. Right? Yep. So Sports Night, Bob Page, who I don't think is with us anymore. But regardless, we would get done. And every so often, after the show got done, we would go up, and if the court was up, we'd be playing basketball from like midnight to 2 a.m. on the garden floor.
That's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. Now, I mean, I had to take the D train overnight back to Fordham. Sorry, Mom and Dad, didn't know about that. But that was, and if you could just imagine, like you are in, they call it the world's most famous arena. And technically, I'm an employee. I've got the security clearance to go in, and there's just a few employees. Let's pick up. It's kind of something that's kind of lost, right? Does anybody play pickup basketball anymore? Used to be like really the thing. Like, hey, let's get together and kind of shoot around a little bit, and that was something big. So mainly because of that. I just can't get the Knicks out of my blood, going down there. And yes, I understand what Sal's saying. Like, I lived the Giants beating the Bills too. Like, so yeah, your loyalties when it comes to downstate, if they're a little bit crossed up, I get it. I absolutely get it. I don't want the Rangers to beat the Sabres. Not at all. Oh, yeah. The Mets. Oh, we got an embarrassing Mets story I got to get to too.
Another one?
Oh, you haven't heard this yet? All right, we'll put a pin in that. We got terrible time. Timmy's terrible take coming up. We have our favorite Baltimorean, PJ Glasser, joining us next hour as well. Your phone calls, comments are welcome. It's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
So much action we couldn't WBEE HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Starting to feel a little like football season. OTAs continuing for the Buffalo Bills, working out in the sun again today. Davison Igbinosun feeling at home here.
With this scheme, I think we're trying to play a lot more man coverage, and I think that's my skill set. Just me versus the receivers. That's where I pride myself on, just being a guy that can take dudes out the game.
Is it more comfortable for you?
Definitely, I love playing man.
The Rochester Red Wings have made it 10 wins in a row. The early start today, they get the W over Syracuse, 8-4 the final. On the Major League scoreboard, Jays are home against the Marlins. They trail 1-0 there in the third. Nationals are up in Cleveland 1-0. Also in the third, no score in the second between the Brewers and the Cardinals. The Yankees tonight, they're playing out in Kansas City. The Mets trying to break their losing streak. New York hosting Cincinnati. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Stay for a while, you're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coat, get sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills! Americans! Red Wings and Nighthawks! Sports bar! For Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2, and yes, we can talk pennant race in May for the Rochester Red Wings. Playoff chase, I guess, would be the more accurate way to describe it, as June 21st, the first half of the season, wraps up, and the Red Wings, all right, today holding serve, so to speak, as they are now 1.5 games up on Nashville and Memphis in the IL North, and the winner of in the IL overall, I should say. And the winner of the IL overall in the first half will advance to the best of 3 in September. Welcome on in. Gene Battaglia with you. Tim Schneider here as well. We'll talk some NBA Finals and other things from the betting angle. Our buddy PJ Glasser will join us at the bottom of this hour. Plenty of time for your calls on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 585-866-4326. Self-awareness is a good thing. It really is. Some people have it, some people don't. As a fan, I think you should have some of it. I'm not talking about Philadelphia self-loathing. I mean, that's taking it to an extreme. But it's just an acknowledgement. And when things are going bad for my favorite team, there's always a meme or something dumb attached to it. I'm talking about the Mets. And you don't have to go back very far. Like, oh, Mets are down and out. There's Mr. Met flipping off the crowd. Oh, the Mets are not doing well. There's the Hawk Tua girl. Why would you do that? How could you be so dumb to bring up the Hawk Tua girl? Oh, the Mets are dumb. Ha, ha, ha. Let's bring out Grimace. This is where we are. Well, funny thing that happened that year was we just kind of owned it. I'm like, yeah, that's our guy. Yep. And then it became like kind of a symbol. I don't think this is going to be a symbol. But I see this last night. I'm like, what? Why? Why would you do this? The starting lineup introduced by Patrick Starr.
Your Mets are managed by a real sweetheart, number 64, Carlos Mendoza. Leading off, that means he's going first. Playing right field, number 3, Carson Bench. Batting second, and he's okay with that. Playing shortstop, number 19, Bo Bichette. Hitting third, and I mean hitting, the designated hitter, number 22, Juan Soto.
I think we get the idea.
Cleanup.
Yeah, like Dan DeLorean put the whole lineup in there. Like, that's the whole idea. Patrick Starr is a character from SpongeBob SquarePants, which is a children's show, but I suppose if you're like in the right state of mind and you have the munchies, if you know what I'm talking about, and you're laughing because I bet you've watched SpongeBob.
I was never a SpongeBob kid, but I respect Patrick Starr because
I think I enjoy stuff like this because I know that people like you hate it.
What?
Like
Stop,
this
no.
is Danhausen and Patrick Starr. I eat up because you despise it.
No.
You hate it.
If they were winning, I don't want like, oh great, Patrick Starr's coming out. Well, we lost again. What am I gonna do? Well, batting first. He's okay. That means he's leading off. Like, okay. Couple thoughts here. One, it's the self-awareness thing. Two, name me a better job in terms of what you get paid for and the amount of work you actually have to put in than voiceover actor. And I'm not talking about Chris Rock being the donkey, right, in the in the Shrek movie. We know who Chris Rock is, and that's a side gig. I'm talking about somebody that's all you do. And I think that's why, like, oh, that's what Patrick Starr looks like. And this guy looks like he should be shopping in the Wegmans on Mount Ree Boulevard, right? Like, that's what this guy looks like. He's just kind of like, oh, hey, I'm a Kodak retiree, and I'm like, oh, that's actually, and we've all done that, right? Like, whenever you see one of the voice actors from The Simpsons, right? Oh, that's what Yardley Smith looks like, the voice of Lisa. What? Like, name me a better job, because outside of that, you can make a fortune and live in anonymity.
For sure.
You like people could say, like, radio people, okay, you don't make a fortune in this business. Let me tell you this. I can walk into the Wegmans of Mount Ree Boulevard and nobody will know and not going to bother me. I'm talking about the person that is making hand over fist money, and I would have to think that the voice of Patrick Starr would be doing that, or any voice actor from The Simpsons. They must take care of them really well, because I don't recall ever there being a Simpsons kind of holdout, like the voice of Homer being, hey, I'm done. And like, I'm sure there's been other instances where, like, okay, well, maybe we can find another guy who could do the Homer, but it's not exactly the same.
You're a TV star without the hassle of being a TV star.
Yeah, that's what you want. Like, why I will never play the New York State Lottery? I don't want anybody to know I won. Right? That's the one, like, you're a millionaire. Ha ha ha. You know, like, no, your world would change. You got to do all the publicity shots, it's hilarious. I needle my brother-in-law all the time, because my brother-in-law, his name is Anthony Gallo, and he works in Batavia, lives here, commutes to Batavia, and there's some guy who won the lottery in Batavia named Anthony Gallo, and it pops up every so often on my social feed, and it's been over a year, and it's like, no, that's not him, and he gets asked about it quite frequently. Anyhow, Mets tonight taking on the Reds, and this is where I'm at with baseball season. How many weeks till Bill's training camp opens? Terrible time, Timmy's terrible take. I have no idea what's on deck here.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's terrible take of the day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
Earlier in the show, you had kind of touched on how successful Vegas has been from the outset of the history of their franchise. The first year, they made the Cup final. They lost to Washington. They ended up getting one with our beloved Jack Eichel. Part of my stance was I'm happy for them, and I hope they do well, and I think Jack Eichel is a false villain in Sabre fandom. But it's interesting to see how successful they've been and the way that they've gone about it, because a month and a half ago, they fired their head coach.
Yeah.
John Tortorella has come in and turned this team into a playoff contender to now possibly the Stanley Cup favorite. And again, they've done this in a decade of existence. They've made 5 Western Conference Finals, 3 Stanley Cups. They've had more success in a decade than the Sabres have had in 55 years. And part of that, until this year, the Sabres were absolutely useless as far as playoffs. And Vegas has been successful from the very, very beginning at a very high level of success.
My take from earlier. That's exactly it. Like, where would you put John Tortorella in terms of greatest head coach? Because if he gets this one on short notice, and somehow, and I don't know the whole us versus the media thing, where to the point where the NHL had to step in, like, we're taking away a second-round pick. Like, whoa, the hell? You don't just kind of throw away assets like that unless you're doing this because you believe this is the button you're pushing with this team. And supposedly this goes back to the previous head coach. I don't know all the particulars. I'd like to learn more about that. Like, what is that? I do know this from my time in Rochester. I got my head ripped off once by Torts. I've told that story where I asked a question, he didn't like the timing of it, and then we talked the next day, and everything's cool. And I certainly respect any coach that says, hey, we need to talk. And that was Torts back in 1996. He's still the same guy, Tim, but he's changed a little bit. You have to. And would I be happy for Torts? Yes. Happy for Eichel? No.
I don't understand that part of it. Why do people hate Jack Eichel? He didn't do anything wrong.
They don't hate Jack Eichel.
Is it similar to what Sal said?
No. You don't deserve another cup. When Terry Pegula says our purpose is to win multiple cups, well, that's great. That team that didn't exist won multiple cups, and yet the Buffalo Sabres, all right, things are better now. Let me put it this way. Anybody wants to weigh in, 585-866-4326. 3 teams are left. I still think the Eastern Conference Final is a toss-up. I still think Montreal is going to do what they do, and some nights they don't look right, and other nights they're going to win comfortably. That'll go to 7. My prediction. So of the 3 teams remaining, would you rather have winning the cup the team that just beat your Sabres? Would you rather have the team, the franchise, well, if you grew up there from the last great Sabre era, that was the franchise that kind of stole the cup from you because you didn't have Jay McKee? Or would you rather have the team that just kind of showed up and like, oh, this is great. Got to stretch it out. Oh, another cup. Fantastic. Drinks on us here, everybody. Like, the answer is I'd rather have Montreal, as strange as that sounds, winning a cup. A divisional opponent I'd rather have winning the cup than that Raleigh, North Carolina, hate that people go down there from Western New York. It's not that special. I said it. Or Vegas. And it's not Jack Eichel hate. It's just the fact that they showed up and they didn't have to pay the price. They should have to wait decades. Now I have like, oh my gosh, it's our 3rd final. This is awesome. Woo-hoo. Let's go out. It's like, Tim, that's the point. I don't know any fan here that hates Jack Eichel.
I know quite a few, and I think that it's misguided. Like, he needed a neck surgery. He chose the one that he wanted. The team said no, and he said, all right, get me out of here so I can go do what I want. It's his body. Like, it changed his career. He's a Stanley Cup champion. The Sabres did not make the playoffs until this year.
So be angry at the GM.
I am.
That's the part. I think most of us kind of like, okay, I see both sides of this. And Eichel was billed something that he wasn't. He was supposed to be this leader. And he's not really captain material. He's kind of, look, he's an assassin. He's a guy you want on the top line. But he's kind of prickly, to say the least. He's
a supremely talented hockey player, but that doesn't mean that you're a leader of men.
Yeah, and that wasn't the promise of the tank. The promise of the tank was not Jack Eichel. The promise of the tank was Connor McDavid. And think about that. If you're in Edmonton, you're like, what the hell? Like, we can't get over. McDavid's got to be thinking the same thing, too. 585-866-4326. Be sure to be listening tomorrow for more great takes from Tim Schneider. Do you remember Bob Horner?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay, so Bob Horner died. So Bob Horner, here's your history lesson. Like, the Braves before they got to be good. Like, you hear all the, like, if you encounter any like Gen X millennial Braves fan, chances are they'll say, well, why'd you become a Braves fan? It's not because Dad was one. It was because I watched them on TBS. They were accessible. Isn't that the lesson to be learned here? Like, would Atlanta still be Atlanta today, the Braves I'm talking about, if they weren't just kind of accessible to the nation? It really is an interesting kind of case study. And we know about Dan Fates like that. Braves fans like this. Well, Bob Horner was one of those characters from those really bad teams. Those teams were terrible. Wearing the royal blue uniforms. This is before they went back to what they were wearing back in Milwaukee and Boston before that. Bob Horner was the third baseman. And Bob Horner kind of fit the role. I don't even know where he's from originally, Tim, but he looked like the good old boy. He looked like the country bumpkin playing third base. Okay, Kansas, close enough. Like he's got a little bit of a pot belly. He's playing third base, big 80s aviator glasses, and the guy could hit home runs. Now, he's being protected, I suppose, by Dale Murphy, who was one of the greatest players of that era. So Bob Horner leaving us at age 68, which if you're naming TBS Braves players. See, I can't play this game for you, Tim. Like Pascual Perez, Bob Horner.
I was going to go Otis Nixon. But...
Otis Nixon. Well, was he part of that? He might have been there. I'll give you that one. Anybody else? Biff Pocoroba.
That one I'm unfamiliar with.
Okay, that's.
I'm early 90s, so I'm late 80s, but I'm early 90s memory. So
I'm trying to think who might have been kind of a. I don't know if there were.
Chipper Jones is my answer, and that's not fair.
No, he showed up. No, he showed up right there, as did Smoltz and Glavine.
Right.
And then they signed Maddox as a free agent. So really, from those early '90s teams from the Braves, I don't know how many of them go back to the TBS era. They were just that. They were that. But Claudell Washington, there's another one. Anyhow, Syracuse basketball. We got a date for you. And I appreciate Jerry McNamara saying, you know what, let's play good teams now. This might be something that their conferences time into, but I think this is the back end of the home and home. They play at Indiana this coming season, so that's going to be at the Pacer Stadium. Oh, look at this! It's on a Monday night, November 9th. It's the same night as the Bills and the Vikings.
Well, we tried.
Like that's it. Like that's going to be one of those. We're going to come back in on Tuesday morning, and we'll be talking about Buffalo Bills football. And oh, by the way, the Orange lost.
Playing some Bruno Martino, and hey, Syracuse lost by 40.
Syracuse lost by 40. It's like that's always one of the weird starts of the season. Like seasons that I would think NHL is always at the top. So like it's September. Baseball's coming down the stretch. NFL is great. College football is getting interesting. Oh, wait a second. We're playing preseason hockey. What are we doing? It's still nice out. To me, college basketball, kind of in that same thing. Like, oh, wait, Syracuse is playing Lemoyne tonight in an exhibition? Syracuse basketball, Indiana, for the Orange fans that are into that. Monday, November the 9th. Let's talk to our buddy, our favorite Baltimorean, PJ Glasser, who you hear also on BetMGM tonight, as you did on Monday night. We'll ask PJ for his upcoming schedule. We'll get his thoughts on the NBA Finals and more. 585-866-4326 is our phone number. Gene Battaglia with you here on WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Beautiful day for some football, right? Bills OTAs continuing, and Oliver speaking on Tuesday, talking about the whole new world on defense.
Everything I know and come to know, you just throw all that out. But I guess like a breakup, kind of. I guess, I don't know. Everything you did in the last relationship, throw that all that away. This a whole nother person, whole nother, so you got to relearn. And it's fun, it's different. Change is always hard, but sometimes change is good.
How about this? For the first time since 1992, the Rochester Red Wings have a 10-game winning streak. 8-4, the final from this morning over Syracuse. Same two teams tomorrow night at ESL Ballpark. On the Major League scoreboard, the Jays are home this afternoon, and right now they're trailing the Marlins 1-0. They're in the fourth. Nationals up on the Guardians 1-0 in the fifth. Yankees tonight playing in Kansas City. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
If there are times like you'd like to show off our town, okay, I can think of when I wouldn't want to do it, right? But let's just say Memorial Day itself, weather impeccable, 10,000 fans at a Red Wing game, and as I understand it, he wasn't in town, but his parents were. PJ Glasser joining us here. And PJ, like you missed out on all the Rochester fun Monday, but for good reason, because as I'm driving around Monday night, I hear you come on BetMGM tonight. So you had to work. I'll forgive you for not coming up to the Flower City. PJ, how are you today, bud?
Gene, I'm doing great. I wish I could have been there, but like you said, had to work, had to take care of the dog at home. So parents were up there in Rochester, and the brother was working and moving in, and all was good. Like you said, they had great weather, and they had a great time at the Red Wing game on Monday.
So we got to have your brother come in. I don't know what his work schedule is, but now that I have his contact info, we're going to set this up where one of these weeks – You might be getting questions from your brother here during this segment, PJ Glasser, who you hear on various betting shows, including BetMGM tonight, as you did on Memorial Day weekend. And PJ, we don't have the final set just yet, but I'll just ask you from kind of a fan standpoint interest, which final matchup would you rather see here? Would you rather see Oklahoma City try to make it 2 in a row, or would you rather see Wembanyama and the Spurs take on the Knicks?
I actually think I'd rather see the Spurs, Gene, because I think it'd be a more competitive finals. I feel like if it's OKC in New York, I'd like the Thunder, and I feel pretty good about them winning. If it's the Spurs, though, I think we got a real toss-up finals. Even though the Spurs would be the favorites, rightfully so, they'd have home court. I just think getting to see Wembanyama and that young core in the finals already, getting to see Wemby in the Garden would be really cool. So I'm rooting for Spurs Knicks, but unfortunately, Gene, I probably think we're going to end up getting OKC in New York.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, PJ. Even though that series might go to 7, my question is about the layoff here for the Knicks. And in hockey, I can tell you this: it's a factor. And I called that one. Like Carolina, they were slow out of the gate. They get pasted in Game 1, and now, of course, they found their legs. They're doing okay in this series now, up 2-1. What about basketball? How do you think this layoff will affect the Knicks waiting around for their opponent?
Well, we saw it against the Cavs in Game 1, right, of the Eastern Conference Final. After they swept Philly, they had a long layoff. And then next thing you know, they're down 22 points. They were obviously super fortunate to win that game. Games 2, 3, and 4, they looked a lot like the team we've been seeing for the last month. But that Game 1, I mean, Gene, there's no question that layoff played a factor. I'm very interested how they look in Game 1, though, coming into the finals, because there's going to be so much talk around that about, you have OKC and San Antonio that played a really tough series coming in against the Knicks, another sweep, 8-9 days to rest, all those sorts of things. I kind of think the fact that it happened to the Knicks in the last round, they're going to be better prepared for it. And then especially if they play a team like San Antonio, both teams are going to be so nervous. You're going to have both teams that are so inexperienced. So many of their players have never played in a finals before. I think if it's that matchup, Gene, I wouldn't look into it as much. If it's OKC and the Knicks, and you have an Oklahoma City team that was in the finals last year, is a little more accustomed to it, maybe it's a little bit more of a disadvantage for New York. But I think the fact that they got a taste of that long layoff last series against the Cavs where they were coming off a sweep against Philly. I would expect them to be better prepared and come out better in game one, regardless of who they play.
Now, so some of these numbers here will be fine-tuned because when we talk again next week, that'll be game one. Like, we'll be previewing game one coming up next Wednesday night. And in New York State, we can't do this, but if you really wanted to, you can figure it out. Finals MVP. Anything beyond SGA, Brunson, or Wembanyama. For instance, Karl Anthony Towns at 15-1 might be a little tasty, but if it ends up being the Knicks' magical year, who might be the MVP? Would you say, TJ?
It's certainly. I mean, Brunson is going to be the betting favorite on the Knicks side, and rightfully so. It would be, especially if they were to pull an upset in that kind of series. Gene, they're going to need his scoring. So if they win the title, it probably ends up being Brunson. If it doesn't, I think the Knicks side of things is way trickier than OKC. If it's not SGA, actually the guy that I would probably bet is Caruso, to be honest with you. Now, Jared McCain's had some great games. Jared McCain has had some great games here recently. J-Dub could be back. Maybe some other guys could be back for them as well. Chet Holmgren, the San Antonio series, hasn't been a good matchup for him going up against Wemby, but potentially going up against the Knicks, it could. I think outside of SGA, Caruso would probably be my look, especially at the price going up against the Knicks. If it's New York, though, that would be tricky, Gene, if it's not Brunson. I mean, you could certainly make a case for Cat. It could be Anunoby. It could be Bridges. So you can make a case for a bunch of different guys. I do think, though, that regardless of who the Knicks end up playing, the Finals MVP is probably going to end up being one of the stars. It's probably going to be SGA, Wemby, or Brunson. I have a hard time making a case for anybody but those three.
We're talking to PJ Glasser, your host for betting, where you're on BetMGM tonight. Other avenues will tell you where you can get more PJ's content. PJ, I want to ask you about golf, and I want to ask you about some baseball plays. But there's this massive event that's going to be starting up here in a couple weeks that I haven't cracked the book on, and that would be the World Cup. And look, we're going to be watching, we're going to be kind of playing along, but have you started kind of digging in? Because this is going to really fill a nice little void. If the NBA Finals go the full 7, that ends on June 19th. This is something that for the World Cup is going to go until July 19th, dropping into a nice part here. So your thoughts on this this rare event that is coming here to our country?
I know, it's great. I have not really dove deep into it yet, Gene. I haven't done any shows yet where we have any guests on to talk the World Cup. So as we get closer, obviously, here over the next few weeks, the shows that I do, we'll have some guests on and kind of listening to them and reading about it. And then once the games begin and we start watching, I'll form a better opinion. My advice that I would give to people, or kind of a good starting point, I guess, for the World Cup is Spain's going to be really good again. They won the Euros, and their team is super young but really, really good. They're going to be the small favorite. France is loaded again, led by Mbappe. They're going to be there. England, it's kind of the same story with them. They got a world-class roster, but they can just never finish the job. And then you got Messi for Argentina. You got Brazil. I believe Neymar is going to play for Brazil, but I don't think, because of all the injuries, he's like the same player that he once was. But it's going to be your same cast of characters. I mean, Spain, France, England, Brazil, Argentina, Portugal, like all those teams are going to be really, really strong. As for like some sleepers and teams like way down the board, maybe to like make the quarters or the semis, that I don't know. I'll have to, have guests on shows and see what they have to think. But I would have a hard time, Gene, even with the expanded format and the more teams that we have. I would think it would be a pretty big shocker if we don't get one of the betting favorites to win the title.
So in golf, the Colonial Country Club, once again, the host here. This is one of the oldest stops here in Texas. But certainly when you look at the purse, this one isn't as big as compared to some others here. But we certainly want to see some good golf this week. So PJ, your thoughts here on the PGA Tour stopping in Texas this weekend?
Yeah, decent field, Gene. I mean, you got a couple of big names. Ludwig's going to be the favorite at plus 970. This should be a good course for him that fits his game. There's only two par fives. Like you said, one of the oldest stops on tour. So this is one of those courses where you can't really mash your way around it. You got to play positional golf. You got to put yourself in the right spots on the fairways, on the greens. You got to make putts. And, guys can make some big numbers at this course. The winning score is usually like low to mid-teens. It all depends, especially in Texas in this time of year. If the wind's picking up, it can be a really tricky course. If it's benign and there's no wind, then guys can go out there and put up some pretty good numbers. But the two I'm looking at, Gene, Justin Thomas at 23-1, JJ Spawn at 31-1. JT's playing some really good golf over the last couple months. I like where his game's at. He put himself at contention at the PGA. He nearly won it on that Sunday. He's not quite the player he was, 5-6 years ago when he was top 5 in the world, but his strokes gained, tee to green, and his putting is starting to come around. He's in really good form, and this should be a course that matches up well with him. So I like JT. And then JJ Spawn, this is just a course, Gene, that is really tailor-made for his game. He's already won in the state of Texas in his career, winning at the Valero Open out there in San Antonio. But we got JJ this week in Fort Worth, and he's just steady, man. He hits fairways, he hits greens, and I think he's going to be right there. I think you're getting a great price on him, too. So like Justin Thomas, but for like one and done, anybody that are in those contests, JJ would be my guy this week.
Does your brother know we have this long-running joke or not? Because if he says, like, Valero, okay, like, I don't want him to be offended, but, like, maybe we'll have to give him a heads up at some point. PJ Glasser, our favorite Baltimorean, joining us here in the sports bar. Your O's right now, 5 games below 500. I don't think that's a surprise, but PJ, in baseball, it used to be, hey, Memorial Day, this was the first benchmark, and I don't think that's true anymore. I think, like, between the talent in the league and the expanded playoffs, I look more at the 4th of July to determine who's good and who's bad. So with all that being said, what do you make of the American League East standings? Who had Tampa Bay right now with the best record in the American League as we're in the final week of May?
Nobody did, to answer your question, because at the start of the season, they had the longest odds to win the division. But at the same time, I mean, should any of this surprise us? Like, this is what the Rays do. The Rays and the Brewers are like carbon copies of each other. They're the American League and National League version of one another. Every year we look up, they have these big market teams in their division, right? I mean, you're talking about the NL Central, obviously the Cubs, who everybody loves talking about. The Cardinals are a model of consistency. Obviously, Yankees, Red Sox, the year the Blue Jays had last year. And every year it's like the common fan could only name you 2 or 3 players off of Tampa and Milwaukee, and all these teams do wake up out of bed and they win 90 games. And that's kind of the same story with Tampa this year. The pitching's always good. They make contact. Their defense is great. They got a young star in Junior Caminero, and they're 19-5 at home this season. They're playing games again in the Trop, and once again, it's a really difficult place for people to win games. So I like this Tampa team a lot. They have started to hit a little bit of a slide. They've lost 3 in a row, which you would expect because they got off to such a hot start. But, Gina, I think they're going to win the division. I really do, man. I think they're the best team not only in the American League East, but I think they're the best team in the American League. I think they're for real. I've been talking about it on the shows the past couple of weeks. I think they're winning the American League pennant. So I am a believer in Tampa Bay. I think they are for real once again.
Tips on betting on baseball, because it's not too often you see kind of a line like this. So tonight, Dodgers taking on the Rockies. So the Rockies are a little better than they were last year, but they're still not going anywhere, right? And you have Shohei on the mound for the Dodgers. Dodgers, I'm looking at minus 424. Does it get to a point where, like, okay, that's just dumb by the randomness of baseball? Let me take the opposite side on here. Like at what point do you think a number is just too stupid to play it either way in baseball there, PJ?
I think anything north of, like, minus 300, Gene, to be honest with you. I mean, because it's like they're all professionals at the end of the day. It's one game. If the Dodgers played the Rockies in a 7-game series, of course they'd win that series 9 out of 10 times. But for one game, like, at some point, like you said, even with Ohtani on the mound and how good he's been, maybe the bats don't show up for the Dodgers. You know, maybe it's a scoreless game going into the 7th, and Ohtani's pulled. Now all of a sudden you got to go against the bullpen, and that minus 424 that you have isn't looking so hot. So I will never, ever, ever, Gene, bet a game like that straight up, put it in a parlay. No way.
No.
I mean, there's just like there's no value in something like that. But to answer your original question, like how do you bet baseball day to day? I would say the tip I would encourage people to look at for totals is like first 3 unders. You know, first 5 unders are popular, but even go like, you know, shorter than that with first 3. Like a lot of times it's 2.5. And I think all of us know now because of the new extra innings with the ghost runners on second, how, I mean, you can just get some absolutely awful beats if you bet the under on some of these games. But like if you have 2 solid pitchers or you have, you know, 2 bad lineups, like betting that first 3 under, Gene, a lot of the time you only got to deal with the order 1 time through instead of that first 5 where it's 2 times through. So I think that first 3 under has been a real profitable way to bet baseball if people want to look at that way of going about it.
We do have some games tonight. Your Orioles continue that series against the Rays. That game, by the way, for Orioles fans locally, that's on FS1. Got Garrett Cole, looked pretty good in his first game. He's in Kansas City tonight, Yankees and the Royals. Anything that piques your interest for the games coming up here tonight, PJ?
Well, that Orioles-Rays game, Gene, I kid you not, I think I'm about 0-12 betting against the Orioles this season. Every time I bet against them, they win. I've loved Tampa the first 2 games of this series. The Orioles have won. So tonight, I'm not going to bet the Orioles, which means that the audience probably should bet on Tampa because they'll win the game. But yeah, I do like Tampa. The Orioles haven't been able to really sweep anybody all year. I don't think they're going to start with the best team in the American League in a pick'em, so you're getting a good price there. Garrett Cole on the mound, Gene, again, a little too rich for my blood at the -156. Like you said, pitched really good in his first start back. So maybe you look at like a Royals team total, something like that. I do think their offense will struggle against Cole tonight. And then, the stinkiest line of the day, Gene's got to be Boston at home against Atlanta. Boston dead last in the AL East. They've lost 4 in a row. They're a small favorite tonight against Atlanta, who is one of the best teams in all of baseball. So I think that line's telling you a little something there, kind of like Boston a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, something is up there. PJ, I loved hearing on Monday night. So tell us what's coming up here in your world where we can get more of your content.
Well, Gene, I'll be again on BetMGM tonight again on Friday with Tim Barbalay, so looking forward to that. So you guys can check that out on Westwood One Sports and the Odyssey app. And then we got some stuff coming up with Game Day Garage, Gene. In a couple weeks, I'll be heading out to Omaha for the College World Series to watch a little baseball. Oh. So looking forward to that as well. It'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, do you think we could get a hit from Omaha? That would be really cool.
I think we could. I'll be out there. I'll be out there on Wednesday, and I land about 10:15 in the morning. So if we do our normal Wednesday hit, that should work for me.
Ooh, PJ. Now I'm into the College World Series. You got me hooked, PJ. PJ, appreciate it. And then and now your brother's he is a Rochesterian, buddy. Whether he knows it or not, he's always going to have Rochester in his blood. So we love having him up here this summer. PJ, thanks so much for your time. Let's do this again.
Absolutely, Gene. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks. PJ Glasser, whose brother goes to Ithaca, and he's interning for the Wings. So we've got, and not related to the Glasser, who's actually on the Wings pitching staff. That's just kind of coincidence. Yeah, that's what you call it.
A lot of Glassers in Rochester.
That is absolutely true. PJ, love the guy. And talk about self-deprecating humor. Like, yeah, we poke fun at his Baltimore accent. Because you know what? We've got a pretty bad accent, too, here up in Rochester. Last call is for you. We got this update on the Josh Jacobs story we haven't even touched on. So touch on it in the update. That'll come up here in just a little bit. Last call is for you at 585-866-4326. Dean Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
I don't think we need the breaking news on this because, honestly, it's not a story that we really should have in any sort of fun light. Welcome back here. Gene Battaglia with you. Josh Jacobs has been released from jail. This after his arrest on 5 domestic violence charges. This is how it reads. No charges have been filed at this time, but the investigation remains open and ongoing. And, of course, the Packers and the NFL put out their boilerplate statements. It's like they have them ready to go across the league. This is what you're going to say is we're gathering information or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, again, what we have to do here is just not cast judgment, and we don't know the story. So I'm just going to take this from a football standpoint, and it's this. If there was a part of the season where the Packers could, be without their top running back, I would say maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of the season because it's pretty soft opening. They open up at the Vikings, which, say what you want about the Vikings. I don't think that's going to be a surprise team this year. I think that should be a winnable game, even though it's on the road. At the Jets, okay, ha. Home against the Falcons. Like, legitimately, without Jacobs, that could be a 3-0 start here for the Packers. They play at Tampa. Time of year, that might be tough. Home against the Bears, okay. And look, teams are going to be not sleeping on the Bears this year. They're going to come at them. I don't expect the Bears to be putting up, a number 2 seed like they did. And then home against the Cowboys. I mean, at worst case scenario, and why I'm bringing 6 games here, first 6 games, because that's the baseline in the NFL policy. Domestic violence, more often than not, if there is something here, that would be a 6-game suspension. There's also the factor is I'm just doing this as if the timeline is what you, the fan, would want it to be, meaning, okay, this happened. What's the punishment? And the legal system does not care about your fantasy football team. The legal system does not care what the Packers want here. And look, and this could all get dropped. Who knows? But that was something that, all right, we have to address today. Certainly not something that you would want to. Fun show we had here today on the Sports Bar. We had Sal Capaccio, hour number 1, where, hey, if you missed that, this defense is going to be completely different next year. And the takeaway here is we really don't want to be calling them tackles and ends. We're going to call them defensive linemen and edge rushers. So Greg Rousseau, we would call him a defensive end before, he's an edge rusher. Bradley Chubb, edge rusher. Guy you drafted with your top pick in the 2nd round, TJ Parker, edge rusher. Mike Dana, signed from Kansas City, edge rusher. Landon Jackson, defensive lineman. Trying to beef up, trying to earn a spot on the team. Where if you're playing on the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle, you normally think of that guy as a defensive tackle. But maybe that will be the opposite side. Like that, it just Sal, we shifted gears in the Sal interview, which I'm kind of proud of. Where we're having fun, we're talking light stuff, and then we really kind of dive deep in that stuff. If you missed that, that's on the Odyssey app, courtesy of the Dandalorian. You can find that wherever you find your fine audio. Also, PJ Glasser, who just joined us talking about the NBA Finals, and he is one that says, no, it's going to be OKC finishing this off. OKC eventually over the Knicks. Tomorrow on the show, we'll figure that out when we get there. Shout out to the Rochester Red Wings. 10 wins in a row from today. First time they've won 10 in a row since the year 1992. That's fantastic. Series continued tomorrow night against Syracuse. For Dandalorian, for my buddy Tim Schneider, my name is Gene Battaglia. Show up in the Bulldog coming your way next year on Rochester Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950.